Hey there, this is Steph from GameReviewsHQ.net to give you a first look of the MMORPG Royal Quest. But just before we delve into the details of my review, let's of course put things in perspective by taking a look at the game's background. Royal Quest is a free-to-play MMORPG developed by Katauri Interactive, which was announced in 2010. Katauri Interactive is also the same developer responsible for the games Space Rangers and King's Bounty series. Set in a world full of magic, technology, and alchemy, Royal Quest comes to life in a world called Aura, a land where the search for the precious Elenium mineral by dark alchemists continues to wreak havoc on the world. Thus, the search for heroes ensues, and that is where you, the player, comes in. The graphics in this game is fairly simple, perhaps because this game was announced back in 2010. The game uses a 3D engine and has a cartoony feel to it. Personally, it feels a bit nostalgic since a lot of the game's mechanics and even the look reminds me of old games. The animations are a bit stiff though. They even didn't bother to make different gender animations. For example, the female and the male rogue animations or stances are all the same. The male's animation could have been a bit less feminine. Aside from these, I would say that the game isn't trying to do anything spectacular or groundbreaking when it comes to its graphics. When it comes to character creation, you get to choose a class and customize it a little bit, and by a little bit, I do mean a little. For you only get to choose your gender, hairstyle, hair color, face, and skin color. Aside from gender, which obviously only has two choices, the rest only has a few selections of hairstyles, hair color, face types, and skin colors. It's pretty much a simple selection given that you can't really see those choices though because the view is somewhat isometric or portrayed through a bird's eye view. Now on to the actual classes in the game. You will have a choice of 4 classes, and these classes are your run-of-the-mill ones. First in line is the warrior, which is your basic sword-wielding character, and this class can change into a crusader or a dark knight later on in the game as you level up. Second on the list is the archer, which is, as you may have guessed, uses a bow and it can evolve into a sniper or hunter later on. The rogue, which does the sneaky dagger stuff that can change into a thief or an assassin. And last we have the mage, which uses magic and can change into a sorcerer or warlock. Nothing notable here, but I am interested in how the evolved classes will play later on. And one more thing to note is that the classes seem to be heavily influenced, if not downright, copied to some extent from an old game called Ragnarok Online. Now for the story. Despite the very interesting plot, the presence of the story still feels a bit weird. You can read the story in the website, but in the actual game I haven't encountered any semblance of the story that is published. All the quests are really menial tasks and have no real meaning or relation to the story aside from helping random NPCs with their tasks because they can't simply move from their spots. If you want to find out about the story, I guess you'd have to read the stuff on their website. Because in the game, I really can't find any story. It could be that the story is later touched on maybe around the mid or end game. Now more on leveling. Leveling up in this game consists of killing stuff, and doing quests involve the basic types of quests such as kill quests, fetch quests, and those kinds. So there's nothing really of note here. Another nice thing with the game is that there are stat and skill builds. Again, just like Ragnarok Online, you can spend all the accumulated stat points and skill points you gain through leveling up. I've heard that endgame leveling involves grinding by killing monsters and doing daily quests. Just the bare bones kind of thing to do which are present in most MMOs of today. I hope they could have just placed other things to do, but since it feels like they are just trying to live off the nostalgia of the old games, then perhaps it could have been a design choice. One more flaw I encountered is the distance between quests are just so far apart. Most of your newbie time would be spent running from point A to point B, and you don't obtain a mount easily without paying. Now let's move on to gameplay. Gameplay here in this game seems really reminiscent of old games like Ragnarok Online. Even the classes and skills are a bit similar to the classes and skills found in that other game I just mentioned. Thus, I could say that the actual gameplay is just like most MMOs out there. Select a target and proceed to spam skills until they die. Nothing special of note as well here. With regards to skills, there seems to be quite a number of skills to be gained through strengthening your character. This is probably what drives most people to grind throughout the game. And with a max level of 60, reaching 60 shouldn't take so long. One more thing that downplays my excitement for the game is that when you open up an inventory, a gamer with a decent amount of experience will think that when it comes to inventory, managing the space will be the only thing you'll have to worry about. But in this game, not only would you have to worry about organizing your space, but you will also have to pay up for space. One look and you see that plus icon there, and it means to go buy more inventory space. And going through the game throws quite a lot of items your way that you will most likely be overloaded with items and are left staring at the warehouse and or shops to see what items you could sell. The warehouse doesn't help with its storage space too. It would help if the items are labeled properly and if the warehouse storage has different pages or tabs for different types of items like your regular inventory, but no. The game wants you to buy more space with real money. There is a crafting system in the game, but I would suggest using this system during endgame because at that level, you won't have to change your craft gears as much anymore. Now let's talk about the community. For me, the status of the community seems a bit hard to really judge in this game, because the game seems to lack a chatting system with a wider scope. For example, server chat, trade chat, or channel chat, those kind of things. All they have is a general chat box available that seems to be an area chat or a chat room that covers the map you're currently in. I guess that's why it's hard to find people to talk to. If ever I see another person, either he or she just doesn't know how to chat or just ignores me. It's the same thing with higher level players. They're just too busy doing their thing. Maybe there aren't just that many players in the game yet, or they would rather play something else. There is PvP in the game too, but it is not focused on it as much, and it is level up too, so it's mild in its approach to the PvP aspect. Meaning a high level character can't jump on you just because his level exceeds the level limit of the map. If you plan on venturing into a PvP map, it would be wise to be at the highest level possible for that map as not to be hunted by other players. Now we move on to microtransactions. They are abundant in this game, so much that it could possibly drive players away. Some could argue that yes, you can earn these by working hard, but it takes really long to get and even maintain. By maintaining, I mean for example, mounts. As far as I know, only the warrior class gets a mount. Other classes would have to grind for it or pay for it, but that's not the end of it. You will have a crappy mount also if you don't feed it, and you need to buy food from the shop to feed it. So it seems like a constant thing. You can buy a mount from another player, but you still don't have the food. And based from the player count I've seen, it could also prove quite difficult to even find a seller. It is not as extreme as other games, but it will take you some time to be on par with other paying players. And now let's do a short recap of everything we've talked about. For the pros, the game has a cartoony 3D style and is easy and quite pleasant on the eyes. There's a generally good quality of its soundtrack and sound effects quality, although it may seem a bit repetitive at times. Royal Quest employs a really simple gameplay and harkens back to an old well-known game, Ragnarok Online. The game offers a lot of build possibilities wherein you can modify your stats and your skills with their respective points. Now for the cons! Quests are really basic and are so far apart from the quest areas and quest NPCs that a lot of time is spent on travel alone. If they were trying to copy Ragnarok Online, they left out two other classes, the Acolyte and the Merchant class branch. There is an impression that the game has a light pay-to-win aspect. It is not entirely pay-to-win because you can save up for items in the shop, although saving up will really take some time. Another thing, Royal Quest is a very grindy game. You'll have to grind a lot when nearing the level cap. Next, it has quite disappointing inventory space, which will leave you cringing while managing your inventory space and will make crafters really cry. Community is rather thin and spread out. I've had difficulty running into people, and those that I've found are lifeless. Maybe you'd have more luck finding them around the higher level town or maps. In conclusion, Royal Quest is a pretty mediocre MMO that could perhaps need a proper sequel. Though Royal Quest may seem similar to Ragnarok Online, but not in terms of content and gameplay though. Royal Quest must not follow in the footsteps of Ragnarok Online 2, since that sequel was pretty bad in my opinion. If the light microtransactions are okay with you and if you're a fan of Ragnarok Online, then you can probably spend some time here while waiting for a proper sequel to the game. But if you're looking for an MMO that is fresh and innovating, then Royal Quest is probably not the MMO for you. So that's all for now guys. Thanks for listening. Once again, this is Steph from GameReviewsHQ.net and we'll see you next time.